Welcome to today's edition of CovInspiration with Dayo Israel. As you know, on the CovInspiration show, we're celebrating the 1 year anniversary of my mentor, of one of Nigeria's amazing leader, the governor of Lagos State, His Excellency, Mr. Governor Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu. Governor Sanwo-Olu's first year anniversary in office as governor of Lagos State has been filled with a lot of achievement, as much as also a lot of challenges, including managing the coronavirus crisis, which he has been able to handle well. Today on the show, we have the Honorable Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources in Lagos, who is in charge of powering up Lagos and making sure that we don't stay in darkness in Lagos State, working with all necessary stakeholders, including the federal government, Mr. Lere Odusote. Honorable Commissioner, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Dayo. I'm very well, thank you, as can be expected. It's good to be.
How are you coping in this COVID? How did COVID affect you? Were there holidays that were cancelled? Personally?
Well, I'm probably not the most affected by COVID. There are other people Lagosians whose lives have been affected so much more. And that's what keeps us up at night, making sure that we can get Lagosians back to work and trying to make sure that Lagos can get back to work. So I haven't really had time to think about how COVID has affected me personally, because we've been at it trying to support the governor to ensure that Lagos is not feeling the effects of COVID in a way that's too much for them to handle.
So in trying not to make you feel professional, I'm trying to make this feel relaxing as brother to brother. You're my big brother. So before I go to the busy part, I want to start by asking, what was your first reaction when you realized you were going to be in the cabinet? Let's start from the soft part.
From when I realized I was going to be in the cabinet. Okay, from when I realized. Okay, so it's a bit different, because when someone first forwarded a list to me, I didn't believe it. I just thought, oh yeah, more fake news. Yeah, me. And I just went back to sleep. The deputy chief of staff called me to say, what's going on? Do you want to have dinner? I thought, okay, hang on a second. This just might be true. It was surprising, right? It was a case of, okay, is this real? Is it really happening? What exactly is expected of me? I know what the answers to a lot of questions are, but is this basically was what it was. We had been working together. We had interacted. Then Mr. Governor, I'd worked with him on the campaign. We'd worked together on the transition committee. We'd had several discussions, but it's one thing to talk about working in government. It's another thing to actually realize that you're expected to be in government. And then you start to wonder, private sector, what exactly does the government hold? I mean, I was comforted by the fact that the people who were there before me or before us didn't have two heads. They had just one, and they seemed to be fine. Some of them seemed a bit worse for the wear after they were. I thought it would make it work. And so here we are.
And amazing. And you were part of the whole process. You were involved in the drafting of the team strategy, a lot of the policy part of what the administration was going to be doing in the energy sector. You were, involved in putting all of that together. What is the difference between that time and what you're dealing with right now? Is the reality different from your expectation at that time? So was it what you're seeing today? Was it what you expected, or was it worse? What's the reality compared to all the policy drafting time?
It's interesting, right? Every single thing that I've had any experience doing in life just comes down to people. You can say anything you want, right? You can decide how things should be. You can know all of the answers, but at the end of the day, you have to work with people, and you have to understand what makes them tick. You have to understand how to manage their emotions. You have to understand what drives them. So when now talking about the energy sector, which is not just electricity, as you know, but also deals with downstream petroleum, talk about the absence of fuel costs. It's very simple. When you get down to it, and then you have to start to manage the individual personalities that are involved, it takes on a new life, so to speak. The experiences are yours, and yet you want to work with them to achieve the objectives of the administration. Their drivers are different from yours. Their motivation is different, and so you have to bring everyone together, gather an objective, and find a way to get everybody working in this direction. So, in terms of what is out there in terms of electricity availability, nothing has changed. There was nothing new. We thought what in fact was. This one is straight. It's real. If you get home and you put on the light, nothing happens. It's because there's just no electricity. Nothing new there. So you have to find. We already knew why. You have to then sit down and say, do we have what it takes to do what we need? People have energy in their homes. Now you have to also realize that the regulation of the power sector is not at the state level. It's so you have to
at the federal.
Oh yeah, you have to within your own limits try and affect it. There's nothing stopping you from investing. There's something stopping you from this, where the person who's invested must then do more. You can persuade them, and that's what we've been doing. Coming to the table with the knowledge of what the sector and what the issues are, sitting down with them, helping them see that you understand what the issues are, and you experience with them already, them knowing that you're from the sector, from the private sector, and in the energy space. There's a comfort, but then there's also the fact that, you're now maybe the way you think is different. No, it's really just what are the things that you can affect, and how would you like to play. And you also have to understand that there's a political side of it. If you're in government, you want to please people and not necessarily attend to the bottom line of the private sector. Also understanding that the private bottom line is what drives their decision making, and you need them to be on your side. So you have to kind of find a balancing act to say we need to do good for the people, but we also understand that you will only be interested in doing good for the people if you can satisfy your shareholders. So that action is ongoing. Have we solved all the problems? No, we have. Are we on the right track? We certainly are.
How is your experience so far in the Lagos State public sector? You've been in the private sector for many years, Schlumberger, Oando, and many other organizations. Now you have to deal with the civil service bureaucracy. You have to go and seek for approval. You have to do many things that perhaps is different, from what it was, how fast things were in the private sector. How do you find the experience so far?
Oh, it's been very interesting, I dare say. It's there are times when you go back and smile because the alternative smiling is screaming. So you just sit down and you calm down, and sometimes you try counting 1 to 10, and then you go back out there and try and deal with the issues that are there. Now the thing about them, there's a system, right, that you must follow. That's not necessarily the most efficient system. However, it's there for a reason. The people that this will come and go, but the systems will remain. Systems are meant to keep you honest. I mean, so as we know, humans find ways to bend the rules sometimes, but the system is there to work for you. And if the system isn't working, there's a process amending the system to make sure that it continues to act as it should, right? So working with civil servants and working in the private sector, the difference is really just comes down to one thing: commercial orientation. In the private it's value. And when I say value, I'm not talking about a value system. I'm talking about the value of the dollar, right? Any investment you make must be shareholders. In the civil service, it's a bit different. The value that we see is not necessarily in naira and kobo. It's also in day living of people. For example, if the government decides to invest in a hospital, and I think we'll get to that in a bit, it's not because the patients are going to pay and the government is going to make money from the hospital. It's that the government is providing a service to people, and the amount that you spend on the hospital is not necessarily determined by the class of people that are going to the hospital, the profit that you can make. It's determined by how much food you can. So once you get that, and then you realize, you then have to rally people around the values that you have determined that you need. So if the value is to provide healthcare, if the value is to provide energy, good energy, everybody has the value is the production of energy, and it's really to rally them around whatever that value is that you've looked at. And the values have been set, but some people sometimes forget that that's the value that we're trying to derive, and then they go on a tangent and try and do other things. The civil service is like a freight train. To try and turn that freight train usually will take a huge effort, and sometimes a lot of people just let it run its course rather than change it. But not this governor. What he said is, let's go.
Go ahead. I thought you finished your statement. Please go ahead and finish your statement. You said not this governor.
Not this governor. Let's go and provide value, the value that we said we will provide. Let's not step and let the freight train keep moving. Let's turn it around. And to Mr. Governor and say, oh, it's not easy. It reminds you, if it was easy, we wouldn't need you. And I think about that the reason why I'm here is because it's not, I know how to do it. Then you're motivated to go back and do what you
Excellent. Let's talk about Nigerian power sector. El Rufai says, or Governor El Rufai said, we have spent 1.7 trillion on fixing power in the last 3 years. What is holding Nigeria's power availability back? Is it generation? Is it transmission wahala? Is it distribution wahala? Where exactly is the challenge? We spent so much. There was 18 billion allegedly spent over between 1999 and 2007, and there's all these figures being mentioned now. 1.7 trillion in the last 3 years, and still we really haven't seen that difference in people's home. Where is the problem?
All right. So let me try and right. It's like you want to drive a car, yeah? You can put anything you want in the car. You can make the engine however you want the engine to be, right? Then there has to be a transmission wheels, right? And then there's the wheels itself. If the tires in the car, or the tire is not touching the road, I don't care how much power that engine has, nothing will happen. You will rev it and it will move. Transmission also has to work for it to transmit the engine to the tires. If the transmission isn't working, it's going to move. So the problem with the power sector has always been a holistic development. The development has to be integrated. Where the tire is at the distribution level. The distribution companies are the ones who relate with customers. If the distribution them right, I don't. The generation plant will be there. It's not going to go anywhere. I don't care how much you put in transmission. Transmission lines will be there, but they will not will power anywhere if they cannot take that power and deliver. So we have to go, and we have indeed gone back and looked at the sector holistically to say, what is that? How can we get power to people? We have generating capacity. Now, depending on who you ask, they'll give you different answers. They'll tell you that we have between 7 and 11 gigawatts of generating capacity in Nigeria. They'll also between 7 and 9 gigawatts of transmission capacity in Nigeria. And also the studies will tell you that we have between 3 and 5 gigawatts of distribution capacity in Nigeria. And so you ask yourself, why do we need 11 gigawatts if we can only distribute 5 gigawatts? You know, you have to then say, well, perhaps the problem is not where we say it is. The easiest problem to solve in is go and build it. Very simple. All the plants guide to say, I'll guarantee to buy all your electricity, and they'll build it. And then you have to pay for the electricity that's been or not being generated by that power plant. And we have examples of power plants that exist in Nigeria. So not a situation. Now we also have a transmission system that we're investing in beefing up. It takes time, and we have to then be able to build the transmission areas where the distribution companies are able to send them out to the people. And then we have the distribution leg, which is where the truth is. That's the contact of pretty all Nigerians to the electricity sector, to the distribution company. When you come home, whether there's electricity or not is down to the distribution infrastructure that you have leading to your house. If the transformer is not fixed, you won't have any energy. If there's a problem with the lines, you won't have any energy. If there's a problem with your bills, meaning you've received bills that you haven't paid, they can reserve the right not to supply energy to you. And so then you have to go and sort it out. And in terms of the infrastructure on the distribution side, one of the key requirements is that you have a meter. If you don't have a meter in the house, but you're connected to the electricity distribution company, they will send you an estimated bill. You may or you may or may not agree with the estimation that's in that bill, but that's the contract that you have with them. You must pay. And if you don't pay, they reserve to disconnect your energy. So what we're saying, and the distribution companies don't like that. They want to be able to meet, and the system has come with a lot of different schemes, most recently being the meter asset provider scheme, where a bunch of people are supposed to go around financing the production, the delivery of meters to the different customers in the sector,
households,
which they will pay from, which they have a payment period of 0 to 10 years. Now, if I was somebody distributing meters, I would rather a 0 period of payment, which means I get paid up front than
my money immediately.
I don't have that horizon. So the MAP system is working to a degree, but it's not working as well as everyone had hoped. And for obvious reasons, not everybody can afford to buy a meter and pay for it immediately. 1, 2, the capacity of meter in Nigeria also need to be looked at. And also the government has to look at the regulation, right? A case where we have some meter providers in Nigeria who cannot provide enough meters for us, and we can't import meters because we slammed prohibitive tariffs on meter in the country, is something we have to look at. We're finally on research and development efforts using the so as a state government to support local production of meters, when discussions within
Sorry, Honorable Commissioner, I lost you there. Some of your conversations are not coming out. You said you're supporting local production of meters. Is that what you said?
Yes, the policy of
I think it's your internet. There's something with your internet.
Oh, okay. We're probably going to have to do something. Well, let me know as soon as you lose me. I will try and ensure that I keep speaking up and you can hear me. But as soon as you lose me, let me know. I can see your face, and then I can backtrack and go back. The policy of this government to work with meter providers to see how we can enhance their capacity. We'll also be engaging with the federal government to look at the tariffs that's stopping us from being able to bring meters in as we need them to ensure that people are adequately metered. Because if everybody has a meter, then it's easier for the distribution company to meter everyone. And then there's no argument about my estimated bill is not what it should be, or my estimated bill is, or it's a crazy bill. The whole business of crazy bills will go away. The regulator has intervened by saying that nobody must get above a certain amount in bills. But then what that means is the transformer that supplies energy into a certain area has a meter attached to it. If all the bills I can send, because they're estimated bills, adds up to less than 100% of the output that's being sent out by that transformer, then I'm going to be disincentivized to supply power to that transformer. It just means everybody on that transformer will be affected. We have to tell ourselves the truth. It's very simple. The amount of power that I put out as a distribution company is the amount of power I want paid for. If there are certain areas where that is being paid, and there are certain other areas where it's not being paid, then I'm going to focus my efforts on the areas where it is being paid. As a government, we're working with the areas where it is not being paid to ensure that we get the payment up. But it's more for us to do that than for the private companies to do that, because what they're it's really a business. That's deliberate, because when privatization happened, it happened because the government of Nigeria wanted businesses running the distribution companies to make them efficient and make them able to services. So we have to complement the efforts of the distribution company by helping them to enable their businesses to be successful. Now, if the businesses are successful, everybody else will be happy, because it means that they're able to deliver services that we want them to deliver.
So in essence, at the center of all of this thing is money. The distributors want to make money. The generators also need to make money, but then there's no cost reflective tariff that is going on around. So it's also affecting the metering because people can't really afford to meter. We can't meter everyone. The mapping system, businesses are not comfortable with that because it's not profitable for them to wait for a long time before they're able to. So there's money at the center of everything. But from information, there's understanding that government is bridging the gap, providing subsidy, bearing additional costs for the discos and even the gencos and TCN and all of that. How do we deal with this issue of reflective tariff? What is the lasting solution? Cost reflective tariff.
Well,
because it looks like if we solve this, we would solve everything.
Okay, so a lasting solution, right, again, would be cost reflective tariffs. I deliberately didn't say anything about that because I wasn't sure if you were going to get there or not. It's an interesting topic. If you enjoy this, you should pay for it. If you're not paying for it, somebody else is paying for it. Otherwise, that service would not.
Which is the government.
Okay, so that's not it's not that straightforward. Presently, the government is paying, but not directly. So what the government has done to bridge the gap in the sector so far has to provide financing for the sector, right? Is to provide loans to the sector to tie the sector over up until the date when they're able to charge. At that point, they will still have to then make their payments. So if there's a shortfall system today, that shortfall is being paid for by the government by way of interventions. But because the government has not said that it's an intervention or it's a subsidy, the whole system is a bit up in the air. You'll agree with me that if I'm not sure how I'm going to get my money back, I would be pressed. I'll be hard pressed to consider not investing anymore. If I invest, it's because I'm sending money in a direction where I expect it to return from. Nobody likes throwing good money after bad. So if I have money in the bank, I'd rather invest in a business that's going to yield any returns to me. So I'm trying to be careful with the way I'm putting this out because everybody is still in discussions around it. The distribution need the transition companies to put energy where they can supply it and not where they cannot supply it. So everybody incentivized to do the right things. The regulator must be incentivized to do the right thing. The company must also be incentivized to do the right thing. The transition company must also be incentivized to do the right thing. We should also go and sign power purchase contracts that we cannot afford. Otherwise, that will be another debt that we have to think about servicing, and it's not going to be serviced by the market. So we have to, at the end of the day, put the market in the center. If the market is asking for power, we should then provide the power. If the market is not asking for power, we shouldn't bother providing it. This system where we have a privatization, but the models that the privatized companies submit for cost reflectivity don't go very far.
And the challenge, Honorable Commissioner, is the fact that the way we need to unbundle power, the challenges are also totally bundled. There's the generation challenges, there's the discovery, the disco challenges, and there's also the tariff challenge. So in essence, it's not really about generation. Neither is it about transmission. But the good news is, recently we heard that there was this Siemens Nigerian MOU on power generation. Do you have an idea on the status of that? And would that put an end to this whole challenge that we have, both left and right?
In truth, right, we're not we know what the problems are. We've looked at it long enough to know what the problem is. And this is what I say to everyone. If you come into the power sector newly, all you have to do is be patient and observe and listen. In months, you'll be as adept at the problems as everybody else is. It's really now a question of solving the problem. So the success of any initiative, right, is driven by the implementation of that initiative. If I know that I know the solution to the problem and I put the plan on paper, if I follow that plan, I will solve the problem for the most part. If I don't follow that plan, I won't solve the problem. It will just be another plan that we've in. It will be another nice plan that we funded, but that we haven't implemented. So there's a plan. There was a study of the sector. That's the outcome of the plan is not new. To say that problem that we're trying to solve. We have a distribution gap that we need to fix. If I need to distribute gigawatts of energy and my distribution system is only able to distribute 5 gigawatts of energy, I need to beef it up to be able to distribute the, or there's no point in building any new plants. I need to also ensure that the transmission company is able to wheel the power to where the distribution companies want to deliver the power. If you build transmission lines that go to where you don't need the power, then you've just wasted money again. So it has to be a holistic solution. The Siemens solution recognizes what the problems are. The Siemens program also looks at solving the problem. But let's see again, like I said, it's really in the implementation. Let's see how the implementation goes. And then in implementing it, they need to also work with the stakeholders. Meaning, if you're trying to fix the distribution system and invest in it as a federal government, you have to work with the existing distribution companies to ensure that the investments you're making being made in the right and at the right time. So the timing also has to be right. It also has to be, there also has to be an incentive for them. And the incentive for them is the ability to take it to the customers and the ability to collect from the customers. So if you look at us in Lagos, what are we doing to support the sector? First, we try to understand what the sector was. In trying to understand what the sector was, and over the years, built our own power plants, right, to supply our. We've looked at it. We've realized that in building the power plants, in cases we didn't take into cognizance the needs that we have or the ways those needs were, the way those needs were manifested. So if you have a Lagos Water Corporation that needs water 24 hours a day, right? That needs water 24 hours a day. If you build an IPP there, that IPP will provide energy 24 hours a day. You will also continue to maintain the network that's distributing the power and also maintain the asset that's actually using the power, right? And that works. If, on the other hand, you have an office, right, that needs power, and then you go and commit to an IPP to supply power to that office building, you're going to be paying for the asset because the asset is only useful to you. You're going to be paying for the full value of the asset on a 24-hour basis. Going to be providing power to you half the time during the day. So what you find out, you end up paying more than the nominal cost of power. So if they come to you and say your cost of energy now is 35 naira per kilowatt hour. However, overnight when you're not using the power, we're going to shut it down, but you're still going to pay us a fixed capacity charge. You find out that your cost per hour, when you look at your charge at the end of the month and the power you used, is actually more like double what it looks like the nominal price is. So it's to say, are we solving the problems the right way, or are we just throwing a solution at a problem that doesn't exist? Are we throwing a solution regardless of the problem? So we have to be careful. In Lagos State, we've learned some very hard lessons. We understand how an IPP should be deployed. We understand where an IPP should be deployed, and we understand where an IPP should not be deployed. So we're looking at Greater Lagos environment now and saying, how can we support that system? We've decided, we've looked at it, and in discussions with the distribution company, we've understood that if we can't measure the amount of power that people have in their homes, then we really expect that there'll be equity, if you will, in that process. Yes. So a disco says to me, right, or a distribution company says to me that this transformer, right, collects 100 units of power a month. But the meters that I have deployed only reflects 30%, 30 units of energy. That means 70 units. There are 70 units somewhere that are not metered. I then look at all of the customers in that area that are not metered, and I average that 70 to those customers. It may be that there are customers within that area, customers of the disco, that are not recognized by the disco, that are not known to the disco, that are
or power theft.
Well, I'm always very careful about throwing accusations out there. There may be customers there that are not known to the discos, but that are enjoying power. They may very well believe that the power should be free because it's a social service from the government anyway. There's no meter, nobody on a monthly basis. Somebody from the acting perhaps off hours connected the building. The people who are on estimated billing, who don't have meters, are going to all come together and pay that person's bill according to the disco of the existence of this customer. So what we're doing with the discos is to divide Lagos into different clusters and go to those clusters one by one and ensure that everybody in each cluster is metered. That way, if there's anybody that's borrowing power that is not connected to the disco, with the intention of paying or with the intention of not paying for that power at the end of the day, we will find out who it is, meter that person, and then apply the sanctions that should be, and ensure that that area is fully served in electricity. As a state government, that is what we're doing. And then we'll move from area to area, working with the discos, and also trying to incentivize perhaps other private sector players to come into this business with us to ensure that there's power all over Lagos. And for us, this is what Light Up Lagos is. It isn't just about building power plants. It isn't just about putting street lights in Lagos. Solution that says that everywhere in Lagos that needs power should get power. And we'll do it one neighborhood at a time.
Excellent. I think you even answered because my next question was going to be, the challenge of power theft and power bypassing. How sustainable is the power theft framework? And even the implementation in Lagos. But I think you've touched that as well as my next question after that, because I was going to come to Lagos. So you're in Lagos, so let's come to Lagos now. In addition to the points you've made, how do you hope to make Lagos to be fully self-sufficient in power generation and distribution without reliance on the national grid, on the power grid?
Okay, so we have to be careful. The largest power plant in Lagos today, right, is the Egmi Power Station. It's 1,300 megawatts capacity. That's the nameplate. Today, you ask, Lagos gets between 800 megawatts, 600 megawatts and 1 gigawatt of energy from the national grid. So from the national grid. Now, if we look at the national grid, that to us represents of power. So the first thing you want to do is not to go and first of all increase the cost of energy by coming and saying you want to build another power station. Now, if you remember when we started, what I said was that the amount of generation that we have in Nigeria, capacity, exceeds the amount of distribution. So going to build new power plants may not be the answer. Fixing the infrastructure and the transmission infrastructure will be a low-hanging fruits for us. And that's what we need to look at doing, to say, let's again, neighborhood by neighborhood, within a defined time frame, solve the problems of the distribution company in Lagos, right? And if we do it in the first few, and it's clear to everybody that the cash is, the energy that's being supplied is being paid for, then it's an incentive for the disco to do more, for that. Working with NERC, they're able to capture everybody in Lagos within their, they're able to buy them. In terms of self-sufficiency, there are two ways of getting power to a location. One is by by having fuel or by moving fuel to that location and generating power at that location. The other one is to create in a location where the fuel exists and to transmit the power to that location. In Lagos, we have both solutions already. So we have a transmission presence in Lagos. We also have the largest power plant in Nigeria in Lagos, the plant. So depending on how we look at it, what we can do is work with the government company, the NERC, and the system operator and the market operator on a scheme where all of the power from me can be focused in Lagos. right? So we're not now looking at transmitting power over long distances. We'll still be connected to the grid in the situation that if EGMI were for some reason to shut down for maintenance, we'll still be able to import power. And if EGMI is all producing for Lagos, we'll still be able to export the rest of the country. So in terms of self-sufficiency in Lagos, that's what we'll be looking at. We'll also be looking at renewables in Lagos, as long as it makes economic sense. And in terms of renewables, we're looking at a lot of different things to determine whether or not we can move power to Lagos through those other technologies. Where, again, like I said, the transmission already exists, so we can look at still continuing to bring hydropower, whether it's from Kenji or whether in the future, the new ones that they're building. In another 10 years' time, we might have Mambila, and we might be able to still import power to Lagos that way. We would also be looking at renewables in Lagos, i.e., for example, wind. We're still in discussions with some partners about carrying out wind studies in Lagos to see if we can actually produce wind commercially.
I was going to ask about the status of the wind. You said it's a 1-year research being done on the right location. What is the status of that?
We haven't selected a location. We're searching for a location now. Once we identify a location, we'll talk about it, and then we'll start the studies, and then we'll let you know. The plan is to complete it and perhaps even have at least one, if the feasibility works out, running by the end of this administration. But again, that just depends on how the market presents itself. Like I said, we won't build a power plant of building it. We'll only build it if the market shows that there's a demand for it. And for now, we still have to fix the situation for us to determine whether or not there's a gap in the market for additional power generation.
There was, I think in the last administration, there were conversations around generating energy from Odusote. I think it was about 25 megawatt waste to energy. Is that still in view? Are you still working on that? Is that something that the administration is continuing, and what is the status of that?
We're looking at everything, right? And when I say we're looking at everything, we're currently carrying out an integrated resource plan, right, for energy in Lagos. It's being funded by USAID, right, through their NPSP program, Nigerian Power Support Program. So we're looking at generation, right, that's possible within Lagos. We're looking at transmission as it affects supply to Lagos, and we're also looking at potentials for generating. But more importantly, we're looking at the distribution forecasting. The distribution forecasting is what's going to help us determine if we need generation and where we need generation. So we finish those studies, it's going to be difficult for me to say that we're going to bring 25 megawatts from Odusote. I don't know that we need that 25 megawatts, but if we do need it, it's already there, it's in the works. We're able to very quickly move in to go and start to develop those capacities.
There's a lot of conversation around willing buyer and willing seller. And Magodo, for example, is on that program with EKDC or IKDC. There are a few estates around that, but there are other areas that are complaining, for example, that, why should they have to pay extra to get power? What are your views on the whole willing buyer, willing seller initiative?
So today we have a MITO tariff system, right? A multi-year tariff order that says that if you're within a distribution company, distribution area, and you're a customer, you should pay the same amount, or you should pay the same tariff as other like customers within that distribution company area. Now, the question is, are those tariffs cost reflective? And do those tariffs encourage the development of infrastructure in those areas? I'll give you an example and put yourself in the situation, in the shoes of the distribution company, and also in the shoes of the customer, if you will. If I have a transformer, right, and I'm only able to recover 40 to 60 or even 70% of the energy that I distribute from that transformer, and I have another transformer where I'm able to recover 100% or 95% of the energy that I send.
Where do I throw the light?
I will focus more on the area where I derive all of the energy from. So if to an area and I realize that I need to invest in that area, and then I look at my MITO and I look at how much I'm allowed by the MITO to invest in that area. Now, there are two ways of looking at that. It's one thing for the regulator to approve that I invest. It's another thing for the regulator that I charge cost-reflective tariffs. If they're taking their time about allowing me to charge cost-reflective tariffs, then perhaps I will look at other areas where I can let the people who live there know that I'm investing in this area. Here's the cost of delivery of power to you, and I will be able to guarantee you 21 hours of energy as against the 11 hours or 9 hours that you're getting. And a lot of times when I'll go to what Lagos State is doing in that regard now. If you look at a place like the DISCO has gone there, they've advised the people that they're going to do to ensure that you have a minimum of 21 hours of power. They said, here's what the cost is going to be. Those people have looked at it, I imagine, and determined that if I'm spending money buying diesel for my generator, right, and with the DISCO saves me a lot of money, even if I'm paying more, then I'd rather pay more. Now, there are going to be other people who will look at it and say, well, I'm the same type of customer in Magodo that is in this Alimo. Why am I being forced to pay more than the other gentleman who premium power? And the reason is because they're able to invest additionally over and above what they're allowed to invest to be able to charge that price. That's the answer. Now, if you look at the way we've looked at it in Lagos in this COVID period, we've looked at our hospitals, which Lagos State supplies power to, and we've gone to talk to the distribution companies to say, we want you to improve energy supply to these hospitals. It is critical to us. Our people are going to those hospitals, and it becomes a matter of life and death for them when they go there. We'd rather not be chasing the diesel supplier to make sure that we're able to get diesel, and it's expensive anyway. And we're talking to them, and the distribution companies have come to us to say, okay, we'll work with you and we'll deliver this premium power to the hospitals. And we're currently in the middle of expanding the supply of power to those hospitals. Now, also, the Alausa campus itself, we're in discussions with the DISCO to provide premium power to Alausa campus, to invest in the infrastructure they need to be able to give us more constant power supply in addition to the IPP that we currently have. And we're going to be running them side by side. And we're going to see the benefit of it. So rather than build an additional power plant to meet the growing demands of the IP, the campus, we're going to be talking to Ikeja DISCO to give us premium power. We're going to be comparing the prices. We expect that
cost implication,
and that should start in the next week or so. So we're leaving the work in Lagos State, and we're, again, like I said, working with the DISCOs to ensure that we can, on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis, improve power supply to all of Lagos.
So if I hear you right, you're saying in essence that the government as well is also subscribing to and exploring the willing buyer, willing seller initiative for the Alausa campus in particular, so that you can see the possibilities and the opportunities that attracts. Am I correct?
Certainly, yes. Yes, you are. If
we're
for Lagos, right, we better domesticate that problem. We better understand it so that we can then solve it on a greater Lagos level. I can't be trying to solve it for a neighborhood and then going back to Alausa and then not solving that problem. So I better put my money where my mouth is.
You spoke a lot about the fact that you're doing it community by community. I have a message here from Olowora Sherry community. They said there's a challenge with the Akute feeder in their vicinity all the time, and they have approached the power supplier in the area, and yet they said that they cannot put them on the willing buyer, willing seller program because they cannot upgrade the facility on the Akute feeder to provide them premium service. Is this something that the government can look into?
So I don't like doing this, but I have to. Akute is not in Lagos State, so it's
but they're supplying power to Olowora in Lagos.
Akute is not in Lagos. So if Akute is the issue, then the distribution company must look at that issue. Okay, so you're talking about the Akute feeder, pardon me. Okay, which is still under the control
the Akute feeder, yes.
If they're supplying power to Lagos, the investment has to be made by the DISCOs. The distribution company on an annual basis submits a capex plan to NERC. If that investment is in their capex plan that's approved for the year, they will do it. But then, like I said again, the investment plans that they make, right, are targeted towards the area that does them the most good. So I don't know, because I'm not in the DISCO, I don't know where Akute and Oluwara are falling into that. But now that they've mentioned it, certainly take a note of it and ask them, and I'll get back to you if you have a way of getting back to your viewers, if you will.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to take other comments from the viewers. I have a lot of them in a bit. Let me just wrap up my set of questions here. Or you know what? Why don't I just take a few and then I'll come back to my question. We have a few questions and comment here. Idowu Olufunke Oyetola, project them on the screen, says this is a good job. Invite more friends. Debola says understanding the system is key. I think I was talking about when you were talking about your experience in coming into the government. Olasukomi Idowu, I think that's a question, says, what is Lagos State policy on solar energy as an alternative for home and small business? What is Lagos State policy on solar energy as an alternative for homes and small business?
Okay, so let me answer that question this way. Regulation so far in the industry has been federal. However, Lagos State has taken the initiative of providing, right? So we currently have 11 primary health centers that are on solar. Now, that are fully on solar. We have another 5 primary healthcare centers that we've deployed solar to in the past 1 month, right? We're looking at expanding that number significantly in the next month or so. In terms of our solar policy, because we don't, let me try and keep it simple. As an alternative, there's nothing stopping anybody today from installing solar. You can install solar in your home and your alternative. And as an energy sector, I have solar in my home, right, that I currently generate as an alternative. So what happens is I've got the generator supply, I've got the PATN supply, and I've got a solar system. So there's no policy that is inhibiting your use. There's no policy that's encouraging solar. There are no additional incentives. But on a private one-on-one basis, there's nothing stopping you from investing in solar.
Doing that. Olufemi Adewale says, Honorable Sir, there is an issue ongoing in relation to the electricity bill of the month of COVID. The federal government said it will be responsible for the bill. I don't know about that. But now bills have been getting to people and they are so unhappy about it. And the bill is so high. Any comment, Honorable Commissioner?
Oh, yes. There was an initiative, right, for the government, because some other governments in the world have such things. They've delayed payments. I'm not sure if any have outrightly cancelled payments or suspended payments. They've delayed the payments and not made it mandatory for people to pay their energy bills for certain periods in the COVID. And it was in recognition of the fact that people were facing hardships, people who are not going to work, able to earn income, and are therefore unable to make their payments. What I know for sure has happened is that the electricity discos in Lagos have pledged not to disconnect anybody who does not pay their electricity bills during the COVID period. But that's not to say that once restrictions are lifted, they will not be asking people to make those payments. There was also a discussion in the Federal House of Reps about introducing a bill to make the federal government responsible for making the bill payments for the COVID months. However, that bill, as far as I know, has not progressed very far. It's certainly, there's no law that says that people should not pay their bills. You should please continue to pay your bills. If the government decides that your bills will be taken care of by them, the discos will send the bills to the government, and I imagine that the responsible citizens will then provide credit to those who have paid for those months. That's a law that says that you shouldn't pay your bills. You should please go ahead and continue to pay your bills. What the discos have said is that they will not disconnect you if you don't pay during the COVID period.
I'm going to match the next 2 questions. Eson Safiu says, Honorable Commissioner, sir, can Lagos State generate power plant for those people living in Lagos only? And Idowu Olufunke Oyetola says, what is the present status of Lagos IPP project?
Can Lagos generate power for Lagosians? I think I answered that earlier on.
Yes.
Determine that there's an additional need for power generation within Lagos. Then we will work with developers to ensure that power can be and distributed in Lagos. Like I said, if we can demonstrate that the distribution lines can take the power to the customers and we can meter the customers such that they will pay, there's nothing that's stopping us from then trying to attract developers to ensure.
Yes, we can hear you now. You're back, Commissioner. Yes.
So the thing is, today, right, if we go and build a power plant in Lagos and the distribution company cannot take the power, then we've another white elephant project. So we should solve the problem
of distribution.
Identify that the power can be delivered to those people, identify that the power can be paid for, and then determine whether or not we can source generation from the grid or we need to build a new one.
Dewolu Funke was asking about the status of the Lagos IPP project. I think you also answered that already.
Oh, yes, I believe I did. By Lagos IPP project, I imagine you're talking about Light Up Lagos, which is not necessarily generation, but just ensuring that everybody
I think it's also the Akute power plant, Alausa power plant, the mainland island and peninsula power plant.
Well, when I spoke of the Lagos experience in IPPs, those were the ones I was talking about.
Yes.
They're still
talking about you.
And they're still getting, nothing has changed.
Okay. We have another question from Adeyemi Adeleye. The sources of any initiative is driven by implementation. We have generation problem, distribution problem, transmission problem. I think you already mentioned that. Monsuru Olowopejo says, what is the government plan on street lighting project? Will the governor suspend it or continue it?
Well, street lighting is a very important section of our security and governance policy. For us, it's very simple, and also commercial, by the way. If we can light up all of the public areas in Lagos, then we can encourage a 24-hour economy, right? Which is one of the in this government. So the street lights are still on. In fact, one of the projects that we're going to embark on before the end of the year is an optimization of the street lights. Today we have about 1,300 kilometers of street lighting. About 100 kilometers of those street lights are on the bright LED lights. Another 1,200 kilometers of those street lights are on high pressure sulfur. Now, what that means is that the lights consume about 20 to 30% of the energy, or 20 to 35% of the energy that the HPS consume, which means we're generating a lot of energy to be able to power the street lights. The plan is over the next 6 months to replace all of the high pressure sulfur street lights and convert everything to LED lights so that Lagos is much brighter than it is now in the areas that have street lights. And after that, we'll then start the extension again on a case-by-case basis. All the major roads will certainly be lit by the time we're done, by the time this administration is wrapping up. So yes, the street lighting project is continuing. We're going to significantly increase the efficiency of the street lighting projects.
What about, I think the same person asked the question, what is the plan to resuscitate El Sewedi Transformer Company in Badagry? The yard is just there, nothing is happening. Resuscitating it will help address power challenges in Lagos.
Okay, so that's an interesting question. The El Sewedi transmission plant is a transformer plant, is a plant that's owned in partnership with the private sector. Lagos State actually is a part owner of that transformer factory. So it's in our interest to ensure that that transformer factory comes back up. And all of the discussions that we've been having is for us to then determine the need for transformers in Lagos. What neighborhood by neighborhood initiative, some of the infrastructure that we're going to be replacing in those neighborhood transformers, where will we get them from? So once we determine how many transformers we're going to be needing and how many meters we're going to be needing, because that person didn't say it, there's also a meter assembly line in that yard. We will then incorporate the meter assembly and the transformer assembly to start to support our neighborhood by neighborhood initiative. So the plan is to bring it back up, because we also don't like wasted assets. We don't like people coming to invest in Lagos, walking away without anything to show for it. We like encouraging people to come to Lagos. So we will be working with LTD to bring that transformer factory back up in good time. Now, in terms of the transformer supplies in Lagos, I don't believe that there's anybody who wants a transformer that cannot get it today, even in the absence of that transformer factory. But bringing that transformer factory back up makes it more affordable for us, more affordable for Lagosians. So we have to back up.
But there's no immediate or short-term view in terms of engaging. It's more of a long-term hope and anticipation.
Oh, no. It's not long-term. It's not long-term. The discussions are ongoing. And once we determine the areas that we're starting with, and when I say once we determine, that's in another 4, right? Then we're going to have discussions with them to say, how quickly can we have this back up?
So that's in another what? 4 weeks?
And determine how many transformers we need. We're going to then be sitting down with them to say, how can we bring this thing back up? So I'm hoping that by next year, that transformer has started production again. And not just...
I missed you.
I'm saying that by next year, by this... Hello? By this time next year...
I wasn't sure if you said 4 months or 4 weeks.
Oh, no. I said in 4 weeks' time, we're going to be having discussions with LTD about reopening the transformer. And by this time next year, it is my expectation that that transformer plant will not only be producing transformers for use in Lagos, and indeed, but also meters as well.
All things being equal and COVID not crunching our economy the more.
Well, let me put that COVID in perspective. Like I said, because of COVID, we're trying to think more about conservation. Because of COVID, we understand that stability remains important. So if we're looking at reducing, right, by bringing assembly into Nigeria, COVID can only enhance that. It won't stop it, because people still need energy in their homes regardless of COVID. We need hospitals that need energy. So COVID just helps us focus on what's important rather than stop us from doing it.
Safi says, sir, try to give each house prepaid meter in order to afford crazy bill. We are tired for poor power sector. They should stop crazy bill during this pandemic. People are not going to work. Imagine when they, I think it's just advocating that they should be more compassionate with the bill. Adeyemi Adeleye says, why are crazy billing by power distribution company not reversible even after complaint to them? What are you doing about this?
Okay, so I've tried to answer that question earlier because it's certainly a concern. On the campaign trail, there were 2 things that Lagosians talked about. One was electricity, and electricity was all encompassing, from crazy bills to the unavailability of. And the second thing was traffic. So certainly we're aware of it. And what I said about the neighborhood to neighborhood development was that we're going to start picking neighborhoods one by one and ensuring they get their energy. Now, about billing, I explained the reason for estimated billing, the non-availability of meters, and the fact that we're trying to roll out meters into Lagos. In fact, the governor has said that we immediately procure 20,000 meters, and he has even expanded that to say procure as many meters as you need over the next few years so that we're able to supply power to Lagosians. So the governor is aware of the fact, and he's very keen on this. Every time we have meetings, that's all he hears from me.
So Lagosians, you can hear our working governor has asked the Honorable Commissioner to procure 20,000, they say transformers?
I said meters.
Meters, 20,000 meters for the use of Lagosian, and even more for the coming year. Thank you, Mr. Governor Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu, for your continuous service and support to the people of Lagos. We have another comment from Segun Adaju. Dear Honorable Commissioner, thank you for your willingness to work with the Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria. Can we partner to deploy solar street light rather than running diesel on generator? I'll take 2 more questions after this. Should I read all of them out together?
Well, so I don't forget. Let me try and address them as quick as possible. The answer is most definitely where certainly keen on looking at solar street lights. And as you know, we have asked a few solar street light vendors to carry out POCs, i.e. deploy street lights so we can measure their performance and then determine how we can introduce them into the mix in Lagos State. So the answer is yes, we're willing to do that.
The only thing we have to then deal with is the issue of vandalism and theft of all this equipment. How are you working to protect all of these facilities? Because it's a lot of investment your ministry is making into all of this thing. How are you working to protect them from vandalism and theft?
So on street lights, for the most part, what we have is that we have patrols. Now, we have patrols, right, all over the place. You may not see them, but they're there. We have security at every single location to ensure that we're able to curb the vandalism in the system. The other thing is we're currently deploying a remote monitoring system across the entire streetlight sector, such that if one lamp, and we can immediately intervene. So very shortly, the will reduce significantly. I said, it's a remote monitoring system. Every single bulb is tracked. If any bulb goes out, we know immediately. So we're either going there to replace the bulb or to go and determine if somebody has removed it. Now, it's unlikely that somebody will remove it. So if you tamper with what was, it will suddenly we'll be able to see from where it will immediately react. And that, so it's no longer going to be an available, if you will, way for anybody to vandalize streetlight assets that we have in Lagos.
Olaskomi, who said, is the Lagos State government need to okay, I think you already mentioned it, but let me read it for reading purpose. Is the Lagos State government looking into investing in transmission and distribution in Lagos, or generating, using, and evacuating the excess to the grid? I think you talked about that already. The final one I would take from the audience is from Fatai Olayemi, who says, well done, Dayo, brilliant conversation with our intelligent and passionate Honorable Commissioner Mr. Lere Odusote, Greater Lagos. I'm sure that's the Making Lagos 21st Century team. Shout out to all the Making Lagos the 21st Century team members who are watching the show. So I think that's it. Let me, as we begin to wrap up, Honorable Commissioner, what would you consider as your top 7 achievement since you got into office? And in particular, the top 7 achievement of Mr. Governor in the energy sector since 1 year of office.
7 is very specific.
Your top achievements.
All right, so first thing,
I just 7 because 7 is a number of perfection. What your top achievements?
All right, so in terms of top achievements, we've identified all of we've done an enumeration of all of the power requirements in the health sector, right? And we've come up with a plan to solve all the health energy problems in the health sector. We have a plan to address all of those. We've evaluated the ability of the IPP in Alausa to facilitate the delivery of services to the good people of Lagos. We've incorporated because to ensure that we no longer have problems of disruptions of power utilization. So nobody has any excuse in Alausa anymore to say that they're not able to attend to you because they have power issues. All of that are now becoming a thing of the past because, again, we've added the additional power requirements. No longer have shutdowns in the sector. Also upgrading infrastructure on the MV side and the process of upgrading the LV distribution network. So next couple of
I keep losing you, Honorable Commissioner. I keep losing your sound.
Okay,
so I'm not able to get.
Let me summarize, right? So that you can capture everything I'm trying to do. We've identified and come up with a plan for solving the health sector electrical issues, right? We've enumerated, decided on how we're going to solve that. We've completed the upgrade, right, of the power supply into Alausa and also the power distribution, where about 50% of the way in doing that, we identified that very quickly. We've identified issues, right, that are causing oil tanker disasters in Lagos, and we're currently engaging with, for the first time, all of the downstream unions together, right, where they all came back and said they're very happy with partnership with the downstream distribution sector, the transport, the petroleum products transportation sector, to ensure that we don't have issues of fuel and disasters in Lagos anymore. We've engaged with NNPC for the first time and come up with a partnership committee that's going to work on ensuring that there are no more. We identified a working group that's going to be dealing with that. We're going to be solving that problem. It has never happened in Lagos before. I think about the other ones. We'll talk about some in Lagos. But in terms of when the 29th of May, right, I won't be able to tell you what Mr. Governor's top 7 achievements are, because I reserve his right to speak on those topics.
No, not for him. I mean, from your ministry, as in in terms of your ministry.
Okay, so yeah, I think I've given you my top 3 in the ministry.
Yeah.
The rest are going to be difficult for me to tell you which one is better than which one. And I think what I can do is perhaps put together a communique that can explain that a bit better.
Yes, I didn't hear the NNPC one very well. You're talking about your collaboration with NNPC that has never been done in Lagos, but I lost you with the internet.
So over the past 2 years, there have been significant pipeline disasters in Lagos, right? In our opinion, was as a result of the lack of monitoring that was happening on those pipelines. So we're working with NNPC to ensure that there's a SCADA system or an early warning system that tells us when there's a depressurization of the pipeline before an accident happens. So it's an early warning system that we're putting in place to ensure that fire disasters no longer happen in Lagos. As you know, the energy ministry is not just about electricity, it's also about oil and gas as well.
Okay, excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources in Lagos State, Mr. Engineer Lere Odusote. Honorable Commissioner, before I let you go, I want you to tell us about one funny or interesting experience that you've had with Mr. Governor. I know he's been your friend for many years, but since you've been in office, working together in the last 1 year, what was that funny experience or interesting experience you had with Mr. Governor? And you just laughed and said, "This man, eh?"
I'd have to think about that one. My goodness, because most of the time, the governor is extremely serious. He doesn't play anymore. Those were the days. Now there's always a problem or the other because he's always overwhelmed. Mr. Governor is. But we still laugh about on campaign trail and the number of people.
We're finding it hard hearing you. Your voice is fluctuating. I don't know. I think it's the.
So let me tell you what happens with Mr. Governor. Like I said, there are not too many examples of times when we laugh, and that's the funny part. The governor said he hasn't changed since he became the governor of Lagos. That he's still the same person. I don't think so. There used to be walk to Mr. Governor's office and have a laugh. These days, when I walk into his office, he's just finished explaining to someone how poor they are doing their jobs. You're shaking a little. It's not the same person anymore. And then you wonder when you walk out that, but I know exactly what I'm talking about. Why do I feel a bit different about him today? Because he's now the governor of Lagos, no longer the regular person that we knew back then. He's under a lot of pressure. So those laughs are not so
Come on. There's a lot of pressure from the office.
Oh yes. He doesn't play anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources, an amazing, fine gentleman. We're so grateful for your time. I want to also express sincere gratitude to Madam Sister Yinka for giving you the time to take away from our own special time to be with us on the CovInspiration show. We celebrate you and we wish you good luck in your endeavor as you try to make Lagos a 21st century mega city by lighting up the city of Lagos. Thank you so much for your time, Honorable Commissioner. Any final parting words for the viewers?
Well, it's just to say, I want you to rest assured that this government is taking very seriously all your concerns and will do everything every day to ensure that life is better in Lagos. Thank you again.
God bless you, Honorable Commissioner. Thank you so much to all our viewers. We wish you good luck and we'll see you tomorrow. It's going to be 2 hours worth of broadcast tomorrow, and we're going to be streaming live on one of the DSTV channels because it's Children's Day tomorrow, and we've got to have a great time celebrating the children of Lagos and Nigeria. So join us same time, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock tomorrow. We're going to also be streaming live on television. Thank you so much and have a great day, everyone.